What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Hitting the Field. We got a great show for you today. We're talking college football. We're talking NFL. It's the football show. I mean, great show. Hitting the Field starts now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back. Now I got Jeff, I got Gadiel, and before we get into the NFL action, Jeff, how you doing, man?
It's always a great day to speak of football, man. I love some football in this show. You know, it's all about football.
No, for sure. And Gadiel, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It was a wonderful weekend of college football, some crazy games, some crazy endings, which I think we'll end up getting to. And I'm ready to talk college football.
For sure. And let's jump into arguably the most interesting game of the day. Florida and Alabama. I don't think anyone in their right mind thought Florida was going to play as close as they did. And then, Gadiel, they kind of beat Alabama and everything but the scoreboard. What were your takeaways from that game?
Yeah, I think what I learned from this game, I learned a lot more about Florida's team than I did from Alabama. And listen, they have a recipe where they can dominate some teams, specifically in the SEC. I mean, when you go against Alabama and you outrush them by about 150 yards, that's some news. That's really newsworthy. And I know the game was at home, but they still, I think they were favored, or they were 15-point underdogs, and they looked like the better team. So I think UF, although they lost and they maybe moved down a little bit in the rankings, I think they're at 11 now, they look like a top 5 team in the country. That's my takeaway from this game. UF is legit.
So, follow-up question for you. Is UF legit, or is Bama just beatable for like the first time ever?
Ooh, that's tough. I wouldn't necessarily define Bama as beatable. Can some team beat them? Sure, but it's not going to be every single team. It's going to take a special team like UF, maybe like a few of these other really good teams to beat them, but Bama is good. UF was very impressive.
No, for sure. And Jeff, I want to come to you. What were your takeaways from this game?
I mean, look at the offensive coordinator for Alabama, Bill O'Brien. What are you doing? You're up 21-3. You're pummeling Florida at this point. All the fans are out of the game. Ben Hill Griffin is silent, you know, and then he starts throwing the ball over again. And the Florida's defense is not something to play with. They've had a stud group in the defensive backfield for a while now, and I just don't understand what Bill O'Brien was doing, and that's why he's out of the NFL right now.
I mean, no, for sure. I think you can definitely look at the play calling by Alabama. But can we talk about that 2-point conversion, Florida? What on earth was that? That was the longest read option I have ever seen. Who carries a read option to the goal line? I mean, what was your takeaway from that 2-point play?
Listen, a lot of people, specifically on Twitter, they were talking about how the play call was not very good, and I understand that. But at the same time, I think Emory Jones, if he gives that ball to Malik Davis, we're talking about how Florida takes Bama to overtime and potentially wins that game. It really, really is just sad to see because Emory Jones played a fantastic game, save for one interception. He was unbelievable, but on the biggest play, he froze a little bit, and it's really unfortunate. Hopefully he gets another chance. I know that's probably going to stick with him for a long time, but I think it was his read that messed it up, and UF, they really want that one back.
No, and I mean, you could also turn to the Hail Mary, and were they going to make that Hail Mary? Probably not. But Emory Jones, you can't run on a Hail Mary when all your wide receivers are 50 yards down the field, bro. That's not how that works. You have no one to lateral the ball to except O-linemen. And do you want an O-lineman trying to run 70 yards into the end zone? I don't think so, Emory Jones. So what were you thinking about the end of that game? Because to me, it made no sense.
Only one name was popping in my head, Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson. By when it's Atlanta time for the SEC championship, the Gators are going to have Anthony Richardson playing the game. Look, Emory Jones is a great player, and we've seen that through the past year and a half with him in UF. But I feel like Anthony Richardson has shown many more flashes of excellence, and he shows that he can launch it deep down the field. He's not afraid to take that risk because he's such a young player. I believe that's someone that Florida needs to put into the main room and be like, Emory Jones, I'm sorry, your time's up. Anthony Richardson, come in, take the throttle. You are our guy. It kind of reminds me of like Malik Cunningham in a little sense from Louisville. Besides, way less error prone, way less shifty. But I don't know. It's fair.
I mean, Anthony Richardson was declared out due to his hamstring, but then was shown pregame backflipping. So that's a whole story in and of itself. But I want to move on to our next game, and that was the whiteout at Penn State. And what a game it was. Penn State, Auburn. Penn State won 28-20, and we got some more idiot play calling in the fourth quarter. Who calls a goal line fade on fourth down with the game on the line? I don't know. Gadiel, what were your takeaways from this game?
I think Penn State is legit. First and foremost, they definitely proved it on a big stage against a really good SEC team. I understand they're at home, but that is still not an easy game they looked like the better team through and through, in my opinion. And I really think Jahan Dotson is also someone that really stood out to me. Him and Sean Clifford, the connection that they have, 10 catches, I believe, for about 80 yards. That's a go-to guy. And if he's able to do that, you have a go-to guy in the Big Ten, you have a running game, you have the home field advantage, you have a gritty defense. Penn State kind of has the recipe of a team that might actually be able to pull it off against Ohio State and then ultimately go to the college football playoff. So I was impressed with them.
Yeah, no, and look, I think Saturday night was the start of Jahan Dotson's Heisman campaign. Last year he showed out. This year he's showing out again on the biggest stage. Jeff, what did you think about this game?
Oh, I was pretty impressed overall with both teams, but I was a bit disappointed with Auburn. When you have a guy named Tank Bigsby and he's carrying guys through the end zone, why don't you keep feeding him the ball? I felt like there's multiple times there where they chose a field goal over going on the 4th and 1, or where they decided to throw the ball rather than run it. Why not put the game in the best player on the field's hands at the time? And Tank Bigsby is that guy. So I don't see this as a major loss for Auburn, but I saw some decisions there where I was like, why?
There were questionable decisions in the play calling. Like I said, the goal line fade. Bo Nix thought he was Emory Jones and also tried to run a Hail Mary. I don't know what it is with SEC quarterbacks running Hail Marys, but that's not going to work. So, Jeff, I want to come back to you. Can Penn State make the college football playoff?
Oh, for sure. I agree with Gadiel that they can make they can make the big time playoff right now. Ohio State doesn't look undefeatable. A lot of these Big Ten teams that are usually at the top of the peak are not looking so high at this point of the season. And when you come in to Penn State and run it with them as many fans as they have there, the fan base was rabid, and they look like this is the team to beat this year for the Big Ten.
And they definitely do look like the team to beat right now with Ohio State struggling with Tulsa. But look, Gadiel, what do you think Ohio State needs to do in order to beat this Penn State team? Because they are good.
I think you need Stroud to start playing to his potential, and he's not been able to do that yet, but he'll get there eventually. I think it's just settling into a new role, and he'll be fine. But I think you just need to be able to get the ground game going, which they tried to do last game against Tulsa. Travion Henderson had a very good debut. I believe he broke freshman records. And I think Ohio State, they just need to kind of get their composure a little bit. It's tough going from Justin Fields, a superstar college quarterback, to Stroud, who is a freshman, I believe. So it's a little bit tough, but they'll be all right. I think they'll catch their footing as the season goes along. What their ceiling remains to be seen, of course, because you have Penn State, you have Iowa, some good Big Ten teams. But I think they're definitely in the mix. I just don't know if I would pick them to win the Big Ten as of right now.
And for sure. And I want to now change gears to arguably the game of the day that you probably did not hear about. SMU and Louisiana Tech. This game came down to the wire, and then Tanner Mordecai threw up a Hail Mary, needing a touchdown to win, and the ball got tipped. And then the ball got tipped right into the wide receiver's hands. It was insane. Jeff, what were your thoughts on that Hail Mary?
Oh, and this is why you love college football. These are the only moments you'll get from college football. In NFL, you don't see that type of mistake, once, twice, 3 times. But, you see that miracle play, and that's why you love CFB every single season. You're always paying attention to these smaller teams, to a Conference USA game. You're always wanting to see that, oh my goodness, he tipped it up, touchdown, and you hear, the announcer go crazy. It makes goosebumps rise in your system, and I don't know. I was very impressed. I was very pleased overall this weekend for football.
No, it was great, and Gadi, I want to come back to you. A tipped Hail Mary for a win. That is what makes college football so special.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that?
I just think it's a beautiful play for a great game, by the way, a fantastic game, over 1,000 yards for both teams, and then you have about 9 passing touchdowns between both quarterbacks. Just honestly, the display of expertise that you don't see every single day, and then you have it culminate to a final play, and you have, I believe, Tanner Mordecai threw the touchdown?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just playing a great game, you cap it off with that kind of play. Obviously, it was tipped, so it's a little bit fluky, but still a fantastic play, exciting for the viewers, and anybody watching, anybody who saw the highlight, I mean, that's really, like Jeff said, it's what made college football special, and it's a beautiful thing. It really made me happy to see.
And no, I mean, like, now I want to come to you, back to you, Gadiel. What were your takeaways from this week? I mean, it was a stacked week of college football. A lot of things happened. What's like one takeaway you had from the week?
I think, and this would pretty much be a takeaway for the entire season, I don't know if there's one single team that is completely unbeatable. Bama is the closest thing to it, but there's a lot of parity in college football right now that we haven't had in quite a while because you don't have these established superstar quarterbacks. It seems like everybody really has to give it their 100% every single week, and that's a beautiful thing. Listen, if you can tell me that every single game in college football is a toss-up, I will be watching every single game that I possibly can.
No, for sure. And Jeff, what were some of your takeaways from the week?
My overall takeaway is that the league is changing. It's not a star-studded league anymore. It's about team play, and it's about how does your overall team, impact the game. Because UF doesn't have that stud player like Alabama does, but they all work together as a team. And as you see, working together as a team, while down 21-3, you start shooting back up the scoreboard. And I feel like the overall team chemistry level of this season has been like out of proportion, and there's usually the star player that breaks out. You're like, oh, that's a Heisman candidate. That's definitely the second to Heisman candidate, but you're not seeing that this season. I'm pretty grateful as a college football fan myself.
And no, I mean, I completely agree with both of you guys. And my takeaway, Notre Dame's overrated, but they're overrated every year. We're going to cut to commercial real quick, and when we come back, we're going to be talking some NFL.
Coming back! We're going to need to no way! Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No. It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
No, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team today.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm going to let you finish, but no one will know Taylor Swift.
Nitro's dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why's Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
Never doing this again.
It was rough.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. And now with me, I got Grant and Sam. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk NFL football. You did just bash my Fighting Irish, but we'll get past that. I'm excited to talk NFL with the both of you.
No, for sure. And Grant, how about you? How are you
I'm doing great, man. I know my Colts let me down yesterday, but it was still an exciting Sunday of NFL football.
For sure, and we're going to talk about your Colts in a little bit. But I want to start with the Thursday night game. Washington football team and the Giants. I mean, the Giants giant and like jumped off sides on a field goal that missed. But I mean, Grant, what were your immediate thoughts from that game?
The Giants defense just didn't show up. I mean, Daniel Jones did what he could do, considering the circumstances, but I didn't think Taylor Heineke was going to go into that game and fire like that. Like that caught me off guard.
No, for sure. And I mean, back-to-back weeks where the Giants defense does not look that impressive, and that was supposed to be the one thing that was decent about this team, Sam. What were your thoughts about their defense?
Their defense, they have a lot of big name players, and I don't feel like they're playing as a team. There's not a lot of connection there between all of them. You've got people like Jabril Peppers and guys on the defensive backs who are strong and they can make these plays, but it's like not a lot of communication overall, and it's exciting to see as an Eagles fan, but tough for that Giants team, no doubt.
No, for sure. And the NFC East, man, it looks kind of wide open. Grant, is Taylor Heineke the answer in Washington right now?
Long term, I don't think so. Maybe for a couple of games he can hold down the fort, but they're going to need to find a quality starter to last through the season.
No, I completely agree. And Sam, do you think that starter is Cam Newton?
It would make sense. It would make sense, of course, being with Ron Rivera there, but the Washington football team rides behind Taylor Heineke, and we saw that at the end of last season. We saw that in the game on Thursday. I don't know what it is. I don't know how he's like in the locker room, but he has to be some sort of leader, and he rallies these guys together and makes impactful plays for this team, and it's important for the Washington football team. I mean, they have a top front seven for the defense in the entire league, and Heineke, no Curtis Samuel, no problem. Terry McLaurin comes up big in that game with over 100 yards. I mean, it's Heineke, I feel like, can be that guy long term. That's still the question.
No, and I completely agree with you guys. And I want to switch gears now to a different primetime game, and that was the Sunday night game last night. And what a game it was. Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't get much better than that, folks. Ravens win. Lamar finally got past his kryptonite, and that was the Chiefs. He was 0-3 against the Chiefs before last night. Grant, how about that game?
I'm going to be real with you, Alex. I didn't think Lamar Jackson was ever going to beat Patrick Mahomes. I thought that was just like a permanent kryptonite, but he proved me wrong. He got the job done. What a game, though. 36-35, back and forth battle. Even Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth were getting a little too comfortable in the booth because the game was so good. The Chiefs' defense, though, has got to really tighten up. It's the Ravens were just – I know they picked off Lamar Jackson twice, but they were just running all over them. And same thing with the Ravens' defense, though. They got shredded, too. But basically, it was whoever had the ball last in that game won.
And, I mean – what did you think when you saw Harbaugh saying, Lamar, do you want to go for this? What were you thinking? Because, I mean, 4th and 1, you're in Chiefs territory. You don't get that. You're giving Patrick Mahomes, he needs maybe 10 yards, and he's in field goal range to win that game.
I thought it was a great move. I thought it was an overall great decision. It just shows that the connection between Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson is huge for that team, and especially for this game. Believe it or not, I feel like John Harbaugh outcoached Andy Reid in that game. And it wasn't just, of course, as Grant mentioned, that is the kryptonite for that team, Lamar Jackson beating the Chiefs. But you got to have the coaching behind him, and that's exactly what he had in that game, and it was huge. I mean, over 107 rushing yards. It's something that shows that you don't have to be this quarterback that has to throw for 350, 400 yards. I mean, he's somebody who can get you those yards in multiple ways, and that's exactly how you have to use him.
And no, for sure. And now Lamar Jackson has the most 200 passing yards, 100 rushing yard games with 4 of them in NFL history. I mean, what we're seeing is absolutely insane. But I want to tell you one thing. I think Aaron Rodgers is punching air when he saw Harbaugh ask Lamar if he wanted to go for it. Because, I mean, flashback to the playoffs, I think Aaron Rodgers wanted to go for that. But, I mean, look, do you think, Grant, that this could potentially be an AFC title game?
I do. If the Ravens got to stay healthy, though. They've already lost a lot of key guys, Marcus Peters, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. They got to stay healthy. That's pretty much their kryptonite right now is health. If they can stay healthy, then, yeah, they can make a run the playoffs.
Sam, what about you?
It's potential. I think it's something that we could see. Of course, the Browns are a strong threat for that division. And then you got to look out for the Raiders. Of course, the Raiders haven't been as great as we've seen in past years, but I mean, a 2-0 start, it's very early to tell, but the Chiefs do have a bit of a challenge in their own division.
I have something to say about the Las Vegas Raiders. So we've seen this story happen before. They start out fast, and then they plateau and start to dwindle down the stretch as the season progresses. Let's see if that happens this year, though.
Yep.
No, and I mean, they beat a Steelers team that I said is very overrated. But, hey, Derek Carr does look good, and I don't know if he's good enough to challenge Patrick Mahomes in that division, but hey, they could get a wild card, and don't be shocked. So, Grant, I'm going to come back to you. Is the division a lock for the Chiefs, do you think?
I still think it is. They're just far superior offensively over the other 3 teams. The Raiders, they might split a game with them, and I think the Raiders are the second best team in that division at the moment. We have to wait and see, though. The season's a long way to go. The Chiefs, though, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they have so many weapons on that offensive side of the ball. The defense will shore up. It will never be an elite group, but they'll maintain what they have, and they'll adapt.
And Grant, I want to come right back to you and talk about your Colts. I'm just going to pass you the floor, and I'm just going to let you talk about the Colts game because that was painful.
Indeed it was, especially in the red zone. Carson Wentz, what are you doing, man? You can't be shoveling in the middle of traffic at the 2-yard line. That's going to cost us a lot of points. And then Frank Reich, the play calling, I like you being aggressive. I really do, more so than Chuck Pagano ever was. But, man, against a top defense like the Los Angeles Rams, you got to take the points when you can get them.
And look, I mean, I was not expecting that game to be close. And Carson Wentz going down definitely hurt. Sam, what did you think about Carson Wentz shovel passing a ball right to the Rams defensive line?
Yeah, it was tough to watch. I mean, of course, as I mentioned, being an Eagles fan, what he was able to do for that Eagles franchise was so huge. And you just see at this point, the playmaker that he was in Philly, it's not translating to what he is now in Indianapolis. I feel like he's overthinking everything that he's doing, and it's something that is hurting his team. I mean, it's hurting himself because we saw it at the end of the game where he tried to throw that pass as he's getting wrapped up and that ankle got rolled. It's going to be a tough thing for that team. He's somebody who could lead these guys and go far, but his mindset is just not there right now.
And did you see his frustration on the sideline after he suffered that ankle injury? He looked really frustrated and conflicted. Like, he wanted to go back out there, but he said for some reason he just couldn't. Like, he couldn't put weight on it, and it started stiffening up.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, hopefully Carson Wentz is okay. I think, Grant, you were saying he might be out for some extended time. Who, as a Colts fan, do you trust Jacob Eason, or do you want them to go get somebody?
I know I don't trust Jacob Eason. I understand he was going up against a top 5 defense at the very end of the game yesterday. He looked rattled and timid and just clueless out there. I mean, you throw in the triple coverage where Jalen Ramsey's just sitting there waiting to intercept the ball. Like, that cost us the game right there. And I just don't know if he's ready to take on a big load yet.
And look, that's completely fair, but who is the quarterback you think the Colts should go get? Should they go get Cam?
Good question. There's not many QBs in the market right now. They might have no choice. They might have to get Cam. They might have no choice.
And Sam, Cam Newton on the Colts offense, what do you think that looks like? Is that something that works well, or do you think that's going to falter?
It's something that I think could work very well. I think that it's very similar, the play style between Carson Wentz and Cam Newton of going, you want to be able to throw it downfield, but you have a running quarterback. And I think the biggest thing that the Colts team needs to do is they need to pound it in that running game. Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines, Marlon Mack, I mean, that's a strong running back room, and that's something that they need to push hard on, especially, I mean, Jonathan Taylor only 51 rushing yards. I mean, he's got to be somebody that you got to really push it to, and just the entire run team in general has got to go big.
I heavily agree with you on that. The run game, they need to take advantage of that running back depth they have, and it needs to start now next week at Tennessee.
All right, guys, so real quick, Sam, what is one takeaway you had from this NFL week?
I think I'd mentioned that the Raiders are a team that could be legit. Of course, as it's already been mentioned, it's very early on, 15 more weeks of football, which is very exciting to see, but the Raiders can be a team that I'm not going to say that they could take over that division, but like you mentioned, they can go into the wild card and take a game from a team that should beat the Raiders. So that's something to really look at.
And Grant, how about you? What's the takeaway you had?
The Arizona Cardinals are 2-0. Offensively, they've been on fire. I know yesterday was a nail-biter against the Minnesota Vikings, but if they can continue to put up the production they have been offensively, they're definitely getting in the playoffs.
Look, the Cardinals look great. I think my takeaway is, and I might be a little biased as a Cowboys fan, but the Cowboys defense might not be the worst thing ever. They forced Justin Herbert into 2 pretty bad interceptions, one in the red zone that would have given them the lead. But that is all we have for our NFL segment. When we come back, it's rant time, and boy, do I got a good one for you. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. But we'll see you after this break.
Here's the story of a show creator who was gearing up to form a bigger crew.
One's a California guy,
a god of graphics.
One hosted Girls on Deck.
It's a story of a 4-year nightmare, which is finally coming to an end. Thank God.
And the new kid, a Packers lover.
Tampa forever. So then one day all these people work together to face a year unlike one that's ever been. And his group rebranded in Orlando. That's the way we all became HTFN. 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 That's the way we became HTFN.
That's blasphemy!
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I want to thank my guests for joining me today. It was a great show. But it's rant time, and this is for all you weirdos who enjoy the NFL more than college football. What is wrong with you? Yeah, I get it. It's a matter of opinion, but guess what? Some opinions are wrong, and you're wrong. The bands, the crowds, the student section, the craziness of what happens on the field, it just can't be beat. The sport is sheer insanity. I watched a quarterback float from the 5-yard line into the end zone in the Sacramento State Cal game on Saturday. Shout out to you, Astro O'Hara. I watched a for sure pick six give Arizona State the lead late in the third quarter become a fumble that BYU recovered. The sport is drunk at all times. And save the but the NFL is higher quality football. Stop it. Higher quality does not make it more entertaining. The NFL is like Kim Kardashian's Met Gala outfit. Is it high quality? For sure. Is it expensive? Yup. Is it cool? No. She looks like a shadow. Or you know what? The NFL is like Donda. It's super high quality, but it isn't that good. I only care about 3 or 4 songs, just like the NFL. I care about 3 or 4 players in my favorite teams. Kanye could drop an album tomorrow and it's silent with nothing on it, and his fans would tell me, bro, you just don't get it. Just like the NFL could have a 7-7 tie, and fans would tell me that's more exciting than a Marshall-ECU game where Marshall blew a 38-21 fourth quarter lead. With college football, there are hundreds of games from 11:30 a.m. until the last game that kicks off, which is normally Hawaii at midnight. It's football all day long. If you prefer 14 games and some weeks less on Sunday and then 1 on Monday and 1 on Thursday, you're weird. I'm sorry. Those are just the facts. The NFL is boring in comparison. I say this all the time and it remains true. The NFL could cease to exist and I would not care. But seeing as the NFL isn't going anywhere, I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to enjoy it, but I'm not delusional enough to think it's better than college football. That's our show. See you guys next week. Peace.